Hello one and all, I have some questions. Now, I'm a fairly recent convert to historical wargaming. It's really only been in the last 5 years or so that I've had the time and the ability to branch out into a range of different miniatures, different periods of conflict, and the history surrounding them. And in that time, I've spent hours, probably days worth of time now, in the books, down the Wikipedia holes we all end up in, and really researching the history of these various conflicts. Because, at least from my perspective, I love to know the why. And not just what division was moved to the border and which man was in command of whatever formation. Those are interesting elements of history. But what really gets me is the stories, the personal tales from people at the front, people involved in the production of war material or anything of that sort of ilk. I like to know the mood of the time. And as well as that, I also really like the little odd tales that crop up, because one of the things that stands out to me, at least while doing all of this research for painting toy soldiers, is that even in the worst possible conditions, in periods where we are visiting on one another industrial scale horrors, in those bleak times, there are still the moments where we are people. Whether it be helping one another or just those little moments of hope, let's say. And sometimes some of those stories are really funny. And I think with all of the concentration on the mechanical side of warfare and what we're trying to replicate on the table, some of those tales, they slip by the wayside. And we don't, I think, connect with the history in quite the same way as if we have the personal perspectives of those people involved. So my question to you is, what would you like to cover? I'd really like to do some videos, just short ones, probably about 8 to 10 minutes a piece, covering the tales of various periods through history. Whether it be the 28th Māori Battalion, for example, or the 3rd New Zealand Division in the Pacific. Now, I know I've given you 2 New Zealand examples there, but hey, it's where I'm from, it's the stories I'm drawn to. But what do you want to know? Now, I know that a lot of like Warhammer 40,000 videos talking about the lore and the background of the miniatures are really popular. So I reckon if we spend all of that time that goes on to toy soldiers, which I love, I do, but imagine what you could find out if we dip a little way in the other direction and start looking at things that really happened. What is the lore of our own world? So I'm looking for your questions. What would you like to see? If I were to do history in miniature, let's say, so snippets of history for wargamers with a view to stuff that we'd be able to put on the table, what would you want to know? So obviously I've got some stories from the Second World War. I'm also lucky enough to be quite close to some of the sites that were important during the 30 Years' War. What else is there? What else might I be able to bring to your attention that you've either heard in passing or you'd just like to have some of the personal tales of people involved? So, if you can, drop your comments in the box below. I would find that really useful. And I don't often ask directly like this, but hey, it's something that I'd really like to try. So pop your questions down there and hopefully I'll have something interesting for you pretty soon. I hope to include like reading lists and stuff as well, because you can't just stay on Wikipedia. There are a lot of the stories, the personal connections that are missing in those rather dry articles. So yeah, I will show you where I found all of my stuff, let's say, and we'll have some fun.